Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, opening for Miss Vendetti this evening is a local Tulsa comedian. You've seen him at the comedy clubs and the bars, like the Looney Bin here in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City. This is the guy that drives his wife's Beetle around town. His name is Matthew Spruill. Give him a hand. Bring him on up, Matthew.
How y'all doing? This is a little up close and personal here. I didn't know it would be like this. Buy me a drink while I'm here, if you would. I'm gonna get right to it here and just talk about a few things. I'm gonna get you warmed up and get you laughing. So if I suck, I'm sorry. First thing I want to talk about is this Pope thing. Did you all watch the Pope thing? It still bugs me when they elected this new Pope, because I'm still catching up on all the soaps that I lost during that time. I'm still trying to watch all these things. So here's the way it worked. We had a bunch of old guys in robes sitting around puffing smoke. And we were all waiting to see if out of that building there was going to be black smoke or white smoke. And I don't know how they do it in the Vatican City, but here in Tulsa, that's how we tell the difference between meth or weed. When you clean every room with a toothbrush and spoon, methamphetamines. So anyway, back to the joke. We had all these old guys sitting around doing this, and at the end of the day, these guys who are in charge of everybody else's beliefs put a foreigner in the office. Not something we're not used to here, huh? But like he said, my name is Matthew Spruill, and it's kind of got a different bit of a sound to it. It's Spruill, and growing up, the way it's spelled, you wouldn't think that's how it is done. So my mom, I would listen to her tell people, and she would have this little analogy. She would go to people, or she's talking on the phone, she would say, it's like a spool of thread with an R in it. A spool of thread with an R in it. And so I thought I could do that. So whenever I'm trying to tell somebody, I'm like, hey, man, it's like a spool of thread with an R. And so the guy goes, you're Spooler. I got it, Spooler. That's cool. All right. So that doesn't work. But, my mom was able to surprise me one time. She took me to school. And you guys remember that when your moms, your parents used to walk you to school and take you to class, and they'd walk you in and introduce you to everybody? It was a bitch in high school. But she walked me in, and she took me up to the teacher, and she said, she was introducing me, and I'm expecting, a spool of thread, right? So she goes up there and she goes, it's like drool, only with an SP. So not drool, but Spruill. So Drool Spruill got his ass whooped for the next years in high school. Let me lose this hat real quick. I apologize for the glare. I wanted to talk next about my lovely wife. She is here with me, and she and I are about to celebrate a year of being married here in the next 2 weeks. It'll be a year anniversary. She is very excited about it. But we had a very magical romance. We were whisked away. We went off to Arkansas. And what? It's if you get married in Arkansas, it's like a dream come true. If you dream in deliverance. But we went there, and we went and applied for our marriage license. And let me give you. First of all, this reminds me about Arkansas. Let's give them a big shout out for Arkansas. I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but their dating site is like at the top of the charts right now. Have you seen this? Ancestry.com. You can find your match a lot easier on a family tree that doesn't fork. But so we went there. We went to fill out the marriage license, and here's a little bit of tip. Read these things, because we start filling this out, and I kid you not, down at the bottom it actually says relationship of bride to the groom. And if you couldn't spell that right, it had check boxes. And next to cousin, it said to what extent. But it was like, so we got our license, and we headed down, we found the closest chapel we could, it screamed like a pig lane, and, so you've seen the movie. It still hurts. But, and we found our chapel, and it was just like a chapter out of The Princess Bride. Have you seen The Princess Bride? This is going to do well, okay. It was right out of The Princess Bride, right up to the part where we had the rodents of unusual size outside the chapel. There we go. Our witnesses were a giant and a Spaniard. We went to go read our vows, and I wrote my own. I'm a poet. My background is in law, so I'm bringing out these big words. I'm like, Michelle, you're my muse, my queen, my fantasy. You mean everything to me. So it was, the whole thing. And then she pulls her vows out. Matt, I lost a bet. Let's get this over with. And so then the preacher, he comes out and he gets a good book and he looks down at it and marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. If you've seen the movie, go with me. But love, true love. I swear to you, there was some little guy in the back that was going, inconceivable! And he's right, she can't have kids, but I don't know how she knew about that. If I'm walking a little staggered tonight, I got to tell you that I'm kind of out of energy, and here's what happened. The other night, I'm laying in bed, and I'm doing on my iPad. I'm doing research, or as my wife calls it, surfing porn. But so I'm doing research, and I look over at her, and she's reading this book, and she keeps looking over me. Every time she flips or goes to the next chapter, she's. And I don't know. So, the next chapter she gets to, she's like sizing me up, just looking at me. And I go, what is this? And I put my iPad down. What are you reading? What is this gray, this shades? What is this thing that you're reading? But when I finally came to, it's really not that funny. I can't find the key. But apparently the lights went off. There was a lot of screaming. There was apologizing. It was just like my wedding night. But aside from my beautiful wife, I have a great son who I'm very proud of. He is 11 years old, and when he was 5 years old, I went to his class and I read books to the class. Have you guys done this before? You've gone to kids' class and you read the stories. Although it sucks with Oklahoma education because half the time, they're struggling just as bad as the kids are, and the kids are crying, the kids like, sounds like. The other parents are, sounds like Mr. Spruill can't read. But I got help. So I went and I read for my son's class, and granted, this is when he was like 5 years old, and I had an earring in both ears. And at the end of the reading session, one of the darling little kids came up to me and he said, Mister, why is it that you have an earring in both your ears? Is it because you want to be like a woman? I had never been asked that question. I just thought with my generation the coolness factor was implied. Apparently it had not trickled down, so I did the best that I could, and I got down on this young man's level and I said, well, you see, looking the way that I do, with the bald head and the earrings, I attract a lot of women, including your mother. In fact, there's a strong possibility that I could be your father. Would you like that? Would you like to call me Dad? Let's stop with the silly questions, okay? So, I didn't read very much for my son, but now the other day, granted he's 11 now, the other day he came up to me and he said, Dad, I've been watching your YouTube videos, and that can't ever end well. But he came up to me and he said, now Dad, I watched your YouTube videos and I noticed that on one of them you were talking about a woman's china. Quickly I'm racking my brain. And then he goes, but it's okay. And I'm like, well, hang on, son, let me explain something. You see, when a woman, he goes, no, I got it, because my mom has china also. But she only brings it out when there's guests over for dinner. And I said, yeah, that sounds about right. And then he said, but Dad, I noticed one thing, that she doesn't use her china very often. I'm like, well, you know, son, that's one of the reasons why your mom and I didn't work out so well. And then he came up to me and he said, but Dad, the last thing I noticed was she doesn't really take very good care of her china. Well, son, see answer to the previous one. So you guys having a good time tonight?
Yeah.
I think that's just about going to wrap up my time. My name is Matthew Spruill. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube. You guys have a good time with Cheril and Vendetti, all right?